I've been making a lot of videos about GameStop lately, I know, and I don't want to be one of those people making videos about the same company, for example Tesla, every day. This is not what I want to do. But if you will ask me today, looking at GameStop and Tesla, GameStop is a much more interesting company and stock. There's so much we can learn from this stock right now, and also it is a better investment than Tesla. GameStop is in a very special situation. The stock itself and also the company. Let's talk about the stock first. Over 250% of the float of GameStop are being shorted. There is the possibility of a short squeeze. We look at the company now. It is so undervalued that it qualifies as a cigar butt. They have more cash than debt. And the amount of cash that the company has is bigger than the current market cap of the company. So this qualifies it as a cigar butt. And now we have the new console cycle coming in November. So all of these events, of course, is going to affect this stock. And we need to talk about it. The idea for today's video comes from an article I read on Seeking Alpha. It's from Justin Rada. The article is about the possibility of Ryan Cohen, who recently invested in GameStop. He bought about 10% of GameStop. It's about the possibility of Ryan Cohen taking GameStop private. I mentioned the possibility of GameStop going private several times. It was before Ryan Cohen invested in GameStop. I mentioned it because I said that maybe the best way, the only way to avoid a short squeeze is to take the company private. But I was not 100% accurate by saying that. Taking the company private can actually cause a short squeeze because it's not that I was wrong. The situation changed. That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about this possibility of taking GameStop private, whether it is real or not, and what does it mean for us investors in GameStop. Before we talk about all of that, please make sure to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. If you are new to the channel, my name is Ishfaaq. I am a popular investor on eToro, where I manage assets for 175 people. So please subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss the coming videos. Ryan Cohen, who is the founder of Chewy, invested recently, like we said, in GameStop. He bought 9.6% of the company, and he said that he has the intention of buying more shares of the company. We need to talk about Ryan Cohen's investment strategy, investment philosophy. After he sold his company Chewy to PetSmart in 2017, he invested in only two stocks, Apple and Wells Fargo. His investments in Apple was of course great, but his investments in Wells Fargo were not that great. So if he's investing in GameStop today, that doesn't mean that this is good news. Maybe he's making another mistake because we can see he made a mistake with Wells Fargo. And now he decided that he wants to invest in a third company. We can see that he's very concentrated and he rejects most of the investments that come before him. Now he has decided to invest in GameStop and with the intention of having some active role in the company. He's not just here to be a passive investor, maybe just wanting to profit from the short squeeze. This is not what he's doing. He wants to be an active part of the company. And we already know that he was able to compete with Amazon with Chewy. Chewy was an online business, an online retailer. And GameStop has failed to compete with Amazon, with Best Buy, with Walmart. GameStop is a failing business. They failed to capitalize on digital growth. So that's why I believe that Ryan Cohen wants now GameStop to be an online business. This is the direction where he wants to take GameStop. But in order for him to do that, he will need to have much more control in the company. 10% of the company is not enough. And that's why, one of the reasons why the article says maybe he's going to take GameStop private. And if you look at the lawyer that filed this SEC filing for Ryan Cohen, that this lawyer, according to the article, is a specialist in taking companies private. I made my own research and I can affirm to you that this is true. This lawyer is someone who's an expert in taking companies private. So that's why Ryan Cohen is a billionaire. He has so many options. He can choose any lawyer he wants to represent him. So why did he choose that lawyer who is a specialist in taking companies private if he doesn't want to take GameStop private? So this is something that you need to ask yourself. Before, I was not so interested in who is the lawyer of whom. Whenever I was reading any form, I never focused on the name of the lawyer. I never made research on the lawyer. But now this is something I'm going to do. Like I told you, I'm learning a lot of things from GameStop, and this is something that I recently learned, that you need to know who is the lawyer. I think that I mentioned about taking the company private from last year itself, or maybe earlier this year. I don't know when exactly I mentioned that. I said that there is the possibility to avoid the short squeeze to take the company private. That the short sellers and the hedge funds owning GameStop, the board of directors, they have to make a deal and try to see maybe they are going to take the company private at $20. Then they can avoid the short squeeze. The short sellers can gradually sell their position and eventually take the company private. At the time, the amount of shares of GameStop being shorted was not that great. But now, when we look at the 250% of float being shorted, 88% of the shares outstanding, I see it that it is unavoidable to have a short squeeze. You cannot avoid it. Even if you are going to take the company private, the short squeeze is going to happen. It's inevitable. Let's say, for example, Ryan Cohen decides to take the company private at $20 a share. Why this price? Is because he has to convince the other members of GameStop board and also the other hedge funds who own GameStop to take the company private at the right price. It is impossible for him to have a majority ownership of GameStop, 50% of the company, because the number of shares being traded is so limited now. And then we have those hedge funds, Ishfaaq Capital and Permit Capital. We have Michael Burry. We have the board of directors, the insiders. All of these own 35% of the company. And then we have the institutional investors, BlackRock, Vanguard Group, passive investors. They own other parts of the company. So it is impossible for Rand Cohen to own 50% of the stock of the company. So that's why he will need to talk to the other people involved in GameStop and make a deal with them. And I believe because Ishfaaq Capital and Permit Capital have been buying GameStop since 2011, and at the time the stock price was at $20 a share, they would need to have a price of at least $20 a share. They cannot take the company private at $10 or $15. Maybe it's going to be $20 or $25 a share. This is where I see it. During that proxy fight we had in June, if you look at the number of shares outstanding that were being shorted before the proxy fight and after the proxy fight, it seemed that about 10% or even less than 10% of the shares were recalled for the vote. So the vote was to put two new members on the board of directors, and the two hedge funds, Ishfaaq Capital and Permit Capital, won. But if Ryan Cohen or anybody else wants to take GameStop private, all the shares need to be recalled, all the 65 million shares of GameStop, and we know that there are 58 million shares of GameStop being shorted today. So in order to recall all these shares, the short sellers will be forced to sell their position. They will be forced to take profits and sell their positions. If they do that, this can only trigger a short squeeze. It's inevitable. And even if the buying price is only $20, the short squeeze will move the stock price even higher, because the brokers, the market makers, everybody wants to make profit. And because the short sellers now need to cover their position and the brokers, market makers need to increase the price, it will go beyond $20, even if the price at which they want to take the company private is $20. On the article, it says that Ryan Cohen, maybe when he sees the short squeeze, he will be able to sell all his shares of GameStop. And from that sale, he will be able to fund the privatization. I don't think this is legal. I don't know. I tried to find out if it is legal or not. I could not find anything. If you're an expert on SEC regulations, please let me know. I would like to know this. But I don't think it is legal, because we know what happened to Elon Musk when he tweeted that he was going to take Tesla private, funding secured, and they inquired. I don't think you can say that you're going to take a company private and sell your share because you triggered a short squeeze. But this leaves us to a big problem, not us, to the short sellers. Will they have enough shares to buy back? Because they need to buy back 58 million shares, and we know that we have only 65 million shares. So this may cause a problem to the short sellers. So short selling GameStop right now seems to be a very dangerous thing to do. We don't know, of course, if the company is going private, but it is a very dangerous thing to do. It seems like this is the easiest way to make money, but like I told you so many times, those short sellers are not digging the grave of GameStop. They are digging their own grave without realizing it. Now let's talk about why it makes sense to take GameStop private. In the beginning, when I was investing in GameStop, I was only looking more or less at that next console cycle. I wanted the company to have more free cash flow during that next console cycle and able to return that money to shareholders, which will trigger the stock price to go up. This will be the catalyst. But I did not want to hold GameStop for the long term, because I knew that sooner or later the business would fail. But now, after holding GameStop for 1 year, for more than a year, and all the investment that I made in GameStop, emotional investment. I know you don't need to make emotional investments in your financial investments, but I'm guilty of this. I have some emotional attachment to GameStop now. I don't want the company to fail. I want them to succeed. And the best way for them to succeed, in my opinion, is to go private. Because Wall Street hates this company. As long as the company will be public, there will be those short sellers. After the console cycle ends, the short sellers will be back here and the company's stock price will keep going down. But when it goes private, nobody cares about the stock price. There is no stock price anymore. Ryan Cohen was able to compete with Amazon, with Chewy. And I believe that if really he has control of GameStop, he can be helpful there. Those hedge funds, those activist investors, the main focus of an activist investor is to return money to shareholders. Taking the company private means returning money to shareholders. Michael Burry will be happy, Ishfaaq Capital will be happy, Permit Capital will be happy. Everybody will be happy if the company goes private, in my opinion. The only unhappy people would be the short sellers, but nobody cares about them. However, taking the company private will cause a few problems. The first problem will be about financing. Like we said, Wall Street hates this company, this stock. It is unlikely that Ryan Cohen will be able to finance the whole privatization, because at $20 a share, that's 1.3 billion US dollars. That's almost all of his net worth. So he will need financing from a bank. And it is unlikely that the bank would want to finance such an acquisition at the $20 a share. Maybe at $15 they would accept, but $20 it is unlikely. It is possible though, if Ryan Cohen convinces those banks that they give him a loan and that they can sell the shares when there is the short squeeze. Because if the banks own, let's say, 3 to 5% of the company, the SEC won't investigate anything. It is legal to buy 5% of a company and then sell it if there is a short squeeze. But when you own 10%, then the SEC will inquire, because then it may be illegal. So if he convinces some banks, maybe 1 or 2 banks, that will finance the deal, and those banks are able eventually to profit from the short squeeze, then maybe he will be able to raise enough capital to take the company private. Another problem that we have here is that what happens to those short sellers? We have 58 million shares being shorted. And Ryan Cohen already owns about 10% of the company. That's 6.5 million shares. And if the company goes private, there will be arbitrage here involved. So there will be more and more shares being bought. And even the insiders, even Ryan Cohen, Michael Burry, all these people would want to hold on their shares. They don't want to sell their shares now because the company is going private. They are sure to make money at a certain price. So the short sellers, they may have a big problem of liquidity. So this will be a big problem for them, making the short squeeze even worse. This is what I think may happen. And here this is a problem for the short sellers, but it may be a problem for us also if the SEC interferes. If the SEC say that this is very bad what's happening to the short sellers, maybe GameStop should issue more shares, should dilute the shares, then maybe this can be bad for us. But if the shares are diluted, then maybe the conditions of the deals also will have to change. I believe that right now GameStop, the business is changing. The management we have today is not the same management we have 1 year ago. It's changing a lot. There are so many activist investors involved: Michael Burry, Ishfaaq Capital, Permit Capital. We now have Ryan Cohen. They all want to contribute to this company. We don't know who is shorting the company. It's maybe those Robinhood investors who are shorting the company. But those smart people, even the new board members, the new executive members of GameStop, are now more qualified than they were before. So that's why I believe that GameStop, even if the business is failing, there is a possibility of saving the business. And the best way to save the business, in my opinion, is to take it private. This is the best solution, in my opinion. I don't know if it is going to happen. There is, I won't say a big probability of it happening. It's maybe 30%. That's how I see it. Because Ryan Cohen hiring this lawyer, it means something. But we cannot be sure 100% until we have the facts in front of us. So far, this is just rumors. But if it happens, of course, this will be good news if you hold GameStop. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about GameStop? Do you think that the company needs to go private? Thank you for watching this video. Please like, subscribe and share. Please watch these 2 videos if you have missed them. Have a nice day and goodbye.